Welcome to Modern Anarchy, the podcast exploring sex, relationships, and liberation. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole.
I tried to keep her quiet, but she's screaming inside of me. I tried to keep her hiding, oh, shut up. I tried to keep her quiet, but she's a wild, wild woman.
On today's episode, we have Dr. Liz. Join us for a conversation about learning to embrace your full erotic play. Together we talk about the orgies at Ren fairs, developing healthy interdependence, and betrayal versus cheating in non-monogamy. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to Modern Anarchy. I am so delighted to have all of you pleasure activists from around the world tuning in for another episode each Wednesday. My name is Dr. Nicole. I'm a sex and relationship psychotherapist providing psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, author of the Psychedelic Jealousy Guide, and founder of the Pleasure Practice, where I support individuals in crafting expansive sex lives and intimate relationships. Dear listener. The power of two queer doctors. The power of two queer doctors. Oh, it's so good. You know, as an anarchist, I have lots of thoughts about power differentials, right? The doctor type, wow, there's a lot there to talk about. There's a lot there to dismantle. There's a lot there to question. And also, under these systems, wow, I just feel so delighted to have that armoring and that power, and to meet other queer, radical doctors like Dr. Liz and say, hey, why don't we talk about all that messed up theory that needs to be updated, huh? Oh, it's so juicy. And dear listener, please know that there are people like me, like Dr. Liz, that are out there, and we're rewriting this stuff. We refuse to go down quietly. We're creating a new world of understanding for relationships, for sexuality, for erotic connections, because the narratives that we've been sold, the narratives that have locked us away into these restrictive boxes, they are not serving us, and we will no longer stay inside them. We make platforms, we make spaces, and we make powerful conversations like this one, and we share it with all our friends. Oh, dear listener, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this movement. It is such a joy to make this show with you every week, and I'm happy that you're along for the ride. All right, dear listener, if you are ready to liberate your pleasure, you can explore my offerings and free resources at modernanarchypodcast.com, linked in the show notes below. And I want to say the biggest thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You are supporting the long-term sustainability of the podcast, keeping this content free and accessible to all people. So thank you. And with that, dear listener, please know that I am sending you all my love, and let's tune in to today's episode. Dear listener, there's a space already waiting for you where you are invited to let go of every old script about sex and relationships and begin living a life rooted in your pleasure, empowerment, and deep alignment. I'm Dr. Nicole, and this is your invitation to the Pleasure Liberation Groups, a transformative, educational, and deeply immersive experience designed for visionary individuals like you. Together, we'll gather in community to explore desire, expand relational wisdom, and embody the lives we're here to lead. Each session is woven with practices, teachings, and the kind of connection that makes real transformation possible. And I'll be right there with you, guiding the process with an embodied curriculum that supports both personal and collective liberation. This is your invitation into the next chapter of your erotic evolution. Say yes to your pleasure and visit modernanarchypodcast.com/pleasure practice to apply. So the first question that I ask each guest is, how would you introduce yourself to the listeners?
So I am Dr. Liz. I'm a psychologist and a sex educator. I wrote a book about non-monogamy called Building Open Relationships, and I myself am queer, non-binary, bisexual, polyamorous, slutty, kinkster, switch, which
Yes,
is,
yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
the way that I put it is I'm an and person, not an or person.
Mm,
Like if you want me to choose between, I want both. And so that's very
mm-hmm.
much my approach to a lot of things.
Yes, well, you're certainly in the right space. So excited to have you today. Thank you for joining me and all the listeners.
Yeah, I'm excited to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah. First question, to dive in deep, I'd love to hear more about your personal journey. How did you get to this space of liberation? I know each person that gets to that has a long, complex history, and I would love to hear your journey.
Yeah, I mean, so those who are listening, you can't see that I'm wearing a shirt from my own merch which says, "We're all just messy weirdos." And like
Yes.
that is very much encapsulates a lot of my experience and journey
Yeah.
as well. Um, I in terms of like non-monogamy, which is where I'll start, so there's layers on
Yep.
layers, of
Yes,
course.
there is.
Um, I came out as bisexual when I was in high school, around 17, and I was the only person I knew at my high school who was queer.
Mm,
So that was very challenging. And then I
yeah.
got into the rave scene in
Mm,
Denver in like the very late 90s, early 2000s, and may have imbibed some substances and started making out with a bunch of people at
amazing.
parties
Yes.
and like realized how much I really loved making out with a bunch of strangers, and got into a dating quad during
Mm,
my was that junior year or senior year? Some point in high school, I was in a dating quad,
wow.
and it
Wow.
was fabulous and so fun. And of course, we were all high schoolers, so it was doomed to failure. And
Yeah.
um, went to college, and in college did a bit of like hot one night stands and then trying to date and then hot one night stands and trying to date and feeling like this pull between the societal script of what I'm supposed to do to be a responsible adult and a good person and check the boxes versus like my own very kind of wild, untamed, feral desires, and the way that I keep getting interested in new people before I'm done with old people. And so I very much chose the path of like, well, do the thing you're supposed to do. And so I met someone shortly before I graduated college who was about 10 years older,
Mm,
and we ended up getting married when I was
oof.
23.
Yeah.
And it was not supposed to be a 100% monogamous marriage. We were supposed to be able to have threesomes with women, only women, of
Oh,
course.
oh
You know
God.
how it
Oh
goes.
no.
Of
Yes.
course, of
Yes.
course. We
Yes.
can't bring another penis in.
Oh
That would be
God.
too much.
Yeah.
Uh, but we had one threesome before we got married. And during that threesome, she and I had never hooked up together. He had hooked up with her before. So we
Okay.
spent a little bit of time in the start, kind of like just playing with each other. And he
Mm-hmm.
was so deeply hurt by the fact that he was not directly involved during that time that like it got real weird, and we never ended up having another threesome.
Well.
Um, he was, I mean, if you think about like a 31-year-old who's wanting to date a 21-year-old, like you're going to have questions. Those are
Yeah.
reasonable questions.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're absolutely right. Like he
Yes.
was someone who was not looking for an equitable partner. And as I went through graduate school to become a psychologist, part of grad school that I think most people don't know about is that you spend a lot of it doing therapy with each other. Like you practice
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
therapy modalities on your fellow students. You also do placements that we call practica or practicums, where you're like doing it with actual clients or patients, but you do a lot of work with each other in your classes.
Mm-hmm.
And through a lot of that work, how I saw myself and what I could expect from a partnership and what I could demand in terms of how my partner treats me changed a lot. And
Mm,
the more that I had boundaries and wants and needs, the worse that relationship got.
yeah.
And we ended up breaking up, because I cheated on him, which was not the best decision, but it
Sure.
had been a toxic and emotionally abusive relationship. And I think that I needed a way for things to end where I knew he wouldn't try to convince me to stay because
Sure.
I didn't trust myself to really leave. Um, and after we broke up, I was free to do whatever I wanted, and I was involved with the Dickens Fair here in the Bay Area, which, if you don't know, it's like a Ren Fair, but Charles Dickens London. So it's
Oh.
like hoop skirts and top
Ooh,
hats
so
and
fun.
like fun vibes, right? And
Yeah.
so as is true of Ren Fairs, we all make out with and fuck each other. And so
I've yet to go
I
to a
was
party
worried.
there for that. I should be
Look,
going.
the thing about Ren fairs is that the people who work them usually stay there all weekend. And
Oh,
so when the guests are
wow.
gone, we have real wild parties with each
Amazing.
other. The number
Hell
of orgies
yeah.
I had in my tent during Ren Fair. Anyway,
Wow. Yeah.
so we broke up. I was worried for a long time before my ex and I split that if I broke up with him, like nobody would ever want me because who's gonna want a like 26-year-old divorcee?
Oh,
And the answer was
a
everyone.
lot.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing a lot of dating and got to a point where I said, like, actually, I don't think I can do monogamy anymore. I don't think that that is the right fit for me. And started more seriously exploring kink that I had like gone to a handful of kink parties during college and like definitely felt like a kinky person inside, but got to really explore the scene more after coming
Mm.
out of that relationship and get more involved in it and started to really like open up my world after doing the thing you're supposed to do of like getting married and
Yeah.
being monogamous and settling down.
Sure.
And so then after grad school, I went into the Army active duty as a psychologist for 5 years. And the military has a very different set of standards of things
Yes,
that
it
you can do
does.
or like be caught doing. But the flip side of that is that your chain of command decides what you get disciplined for and whether you get disciplined for things. And so if you are someone who is really useful to their organization and they like you and trust you overall, if something happens, they can take that latitude to be like, please don't do this again. Don't make us discipline you, instead of being forced to do something more serious.
Yeah.
And so even while I was in the military, I was doing non-monogamy stuff and still figuring out like what I wanted my life to look like after I got out of the time I was going to be in the military and could be
Mm-hmm.
more openly all of the things that I am.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got into the military, it was still technically don't ask, don't tell, but it was like the
Yeah.
last year of it. So everybody was like, yeah, we're not really enforcing any of that anymore. Like it's on its way out. Nobody's
Okay.
going to do anything about this. But it was still illegal for trans folks to serve. And my first year as a psychologist in the Army, I had a patient who was transgender. His whole unit knew. None of them cared.
Mm.
They were totally fine
Fair.
with it.
Yeah.
Because again, they can choose to enforce it or not.
Huh.
If they think this is a good soldier, they don't have an issue with it, they don't have to enforce it.
Interesting.
So it was a very interesting experience in the Army, and I think that being in the Army was also a lot of what kind of like cracked open my gender stuff.
Sure.
Because in the Army, I got to wear boy clothes all day and talk like a boy
Yeah.
and email like a boy. I didn't have to use a bunch of like exclamation points and softening language. I could just directly communicate.
Yeah.
And then if I wanted to at night, I could put on makeup and a dress and like get all cute and go out and be more
Sure.
femme. So
Sure.
I got access to both worlds.
Yep.
And when I got out of the military, I think it made me realize like, oh, I actually do need both of these. Like
Mm.
I need all of this for my gender. And so
Mm-hmm.
once I got out of the army, I decided to do my private practice full time, which was the case up until about a year and a half ago, working with sexual and gender minorities and been polyamorous and slutty and traveling around teaching stuff and
Yeah.
being more involved in the kink scene and
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where your journey never really ends.
Of course. Yeah.
Who I see myself as now, I think is someone that my like high school teenage self would be both shocked by and
Mm.
also not at all surprised by because
Mm.
it's very much who I was, but I'm not ashamed of it in the way that I was back then. Like
Yeah.
the person who wanted to go to these raves and make out with a bunch of people and have a bunch of fun is the person I am now. I
Yeah.
just don't feel like that's bad or wrong or like I need to hide it or fix it.
Mm-hmm. Powerful, powerful. Ugh. I love the bird's eye view too of the story when you tell it with such you see the through line through all of it now, but I can only imagine as you're living in it, it is complex and confusing and joyful and
Mm-hmm.
crying and the full range of the thing, but
All
when you
the
look
time.
back, you're like, oh, yes, this makes sense here, 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 but when you're in it, it's a, whoa,
Yeah.
no?
I mean,
Yeah.
especially like the most recent for me, of course, is gender stuff.
Mm,
And when I was first kind of grappling with, am I cisgender or am I not cisgender? There was a lot of fear of like almost stolen valor of like, I
mm,
don't want to say that I'm non-binary because it's a
sure,
trendy thing or because I'm trying to escape
sure,
womanhood and misogyny
sure.
or like I'm not really that non-binary maybe. And I think that there are elements of that through all those different pieces of my journey of like, well, yeah, like I like kinky stuff, but like, am I okay without it? Do I really need it? Like, yeah, I like making out with a lot of people, but like, shouldn't I just settle down and do monogamy? Isn't that the right choice? And I think that for me, a big part of getting to where I am now has been a lot of allowing myself to just throw out what the culture says we're supposed to do and who we're
Yeah.
supposed to be,
Yep.
and giving myself permission to just be whoever I am. And that's true also of like learning in my 30s that I have ADHD.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
if part of my ADHD is that I keep my snack foods in the living room because that's where I want to snack instead of in the kitchen, that's cool.
Yeah.
If I need to keep, you know, like a copy of each of my cleaning products in each of the bathrooms so that I can use them when they're there,
Yeah.
great. Like finding the things
Mm-hmm.
that I need to do with the way that I work rather than trying to make myself be something else
Mm-hmm.
has been a huge part of all of those journeys for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Whose expectations are we living up to, right? Being able to
Right.
find your own values and live to those and find your own pleasure. Yeah, and I'm thinking too, as someone who also got my doctorate in clinical psychology, the field is not kind to many of these identities. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I can
I
only
mean,
imagine.
luckily, I did my degree out here in the San Francisco area.
Oh, that's
But
different. Yeah.
even then,
Yeah.
even in like our human sexuality courses or like our
Yeah.
relationship therapy courses, I
Yeah.
was the person bringing up like polyamory and kink stuff, and it's something that even in the Bay Area was not as widely regarded. And even in like ASACT, the American
Yeah.
Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, there's still a lot of people who highly stigmatize polyamory or who highly
Yes.
stigmatize consensual kink. And those are
Yes.
sex therapists, the people who have devoted their career to talking about sex with clients, still are weird about these things. It's fascinating to me that they could get that
Yeah.
far and still be that way.
Yeah, right? The listener cannot see my face, but it is shocked and very upset.
Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely. I did mine in Chicago and there was definitely no mention of it, but I don't think it's the poly community does not seem as big as the Bay Area, which so yeah, that's even more shocking. But let us not forget that homosexuality was in the DSM, right? So for all the
Yeah.
listeners who don't know that, we can remember the roots of this patriarchal institution. So I'm curious for you then, Doctor. I love throwing
Mm.
the power title in there. So, Doctor.
Yes, doctor. What question do you have for me?
Well. Then how do you understand clinically polyamory? How do you understand that historically, even
Mhm.
culturally?
Yeah, I have kind of two things to say about that that can seem contradictory, but if
Mm.
there's anything that DBT teaches us, it's that things can look like they are contradictory and exist at the same time.
Yes.
One piece is that I think that humans in general tend to show a distribution across any given trait. Like there are people who are more morning people, there are people who are more night people, there are people who are more into spicy food and less into spicy food. When it comes to monogamy, non-monogamy, I think that some folks are probably naturally wired more monogamous. Like that's just kind of how they work. Some people are naturally wired more non-monogamous. That's kind of how they work. A bunch of people could probably go either way. And I think it doesn't actually matter how we're wired, it matters what we choose. So this is the second contradictory piece.
Yeah.
I have a lot of concern about arguments that are about like born this way or wired this way, because if it is about someone else doing something with their body that has nothing to do with you, why do you care?
Yeah.
If it's chosen, right? Like, even if no person is born trans, why does it matter if they transition? How are they affecting you in literally any way? right? Even if it is true that every person is born monogamous, why does it matter if people choose non-monogamy? Or vice versa. If everyone is born non-monogamous, why does it matter if they choose monogamy? What I think matters the most about how we do relationships, whether monogamous or non-monogamous, is are we being attuned to our own boundaries? Are we ensuring that we are attuning to the agency of the people we're in relationship with, that we're developing healthy interdependence rather than unhealthy codependence,
Yeah.
that we are giving them the freedom to make their own choices and the information they need to make those choices about how those would affect us. I think that the culture we have teaches people this very strange model of expecting people to be able to guess exactly what you need. And also, they should know exactly your script for how relationships are or what it means to be a partner. Or you should never have to talk about it because that means the relationship is broken. Or you
Mm.
shouldn't ask for too much because then you're needy and that's not okay. But like,
Mm.
don't ask for nothing because then it's your fault you're never getting it. There's
Right.
all of these messages we get that are about suppressing what is true for us and not acknowledging that we have needs. Because, like, again, we're all messy weirdos. We're all going to have stuff we want and need. There's nothing wrong with wanting or needing something. It just may not be something a partner can give to us.
Hmm.
And the more open we are about what it is we want, what it is we need, the easier it's going to be for us to find the people who can be that for us and do those
Hmm.
things with us.
Hmm.
The more we're trying to be a person we aren't, the more we're going to find people who need us to continue being that person no matter the cost. And I think that what I want for everybody is just more freedom of choice, more
Yeah.
access to the ability to live what feels right for them, as long as what they're doing isn't harming everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. The liberation of options. That's definitely something I
Yeah.
always talk about, to be able to freely choose. And I think that's where that question of free is, oh, something I
Hmm.
could unpack for a lifetime
Oh my
in
gosh,
terms
seriously.
I know, right? It's like no one wants to have that conversation about maybe we don't have free will, but however, important to talk about how
Yeah.
when we are cultural beings, right? We are relational beings. And so part of our desires are shaped by our cultural context. We see that very easily with food. We even see that with interest in different types of body sizes across culture of
Hmm.
what is attractive. And if you ask that person individually in the research study, they'd say, this is what I'm attracted to. I feel this way. And also, when you take that bird's eye lens, you can see how that's a reflection of their bubble and culture that they live in. And
Hmm.
so we know historically there have been many cultures that have practiced lots of different types of relating, right? Polygamy,
Yeah.
polyamory, like the full thing, celibacy, the whole thing, right? And we do know that the American culture comes from genocide, right? And so we know that too,
Yep.
a long
And
lineage.
colonialization, right? Which
Yes.
colonialization is largely about stripping away the idea that culture even exists, right?
Hmm.
Colonializing is all about creating white culture as almost like an absence of culture, but it is still present, but it's not acknowledged as being present.
It's so wild. I see that in the field of clinical psychology.
So much. Oh my
Oh
gosh, so
God.
much.
Even the like addressing model, this is always one of my points. The addressing model has on there, for the listener who doesn't know, it's a way of classifying identities of a client that you have, and each one is different, right? One of them is for sexuality. And so I appreciate that we have that conversation of what is the sexuality of my client. There's one for gender. What is the gender of my client? What is also the relational orientation of my client? Now, that is not something in there. And notice
Yeah.
that's because we make the assumption they're monogamous, and so we don't even have to define it. Hence, a great
Hmm.
example of the way that it just sits there very quietly as the norm, and so you don't even have to name it. And I shake my fist at that. But long career
All the time.
ahead.
It's for me that comes up so much when people are talking about like books they've read about attachment. Like I don't have a ton of
Mm,
people in my life anymore who aren't non-monogamous because
sure.
that's just kind of how it goes usually.
Yes. Yes.
But every once in a while I'll be talking to people and they're like, "Oh, have you read this book about attachment theory?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So most books about attachment theory have this very strong presupposition of monogamy as the only model that can work, and I don't agree with that. So it's tough for me to get into a lot of the way that attachment theory books work often. Of course, the big exception to that being Jessica Fern with Polysecure,
Right.
which I'm sure we've all read a million times. I know I have.
Yep,
Um,
she's been on the show. There's an episode, listener. If you go back in the catalog, it's there.
Always. Jessica is brilliant. I love her.
Yeah,
She's
yes,
amazing.
yes.
But yeah, the way that there's this assumption of monogamy and also this like the cultural conversation around kinks and like what is considered a kink and like what is acceptable is so fascinating to me because loads of folks will think that like choking your partner is not kinky,
Mm,
but like tying them up is. And I'm like,
mm,
in terms of risk, these are real different and not in the
yeah.
way that you think they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's this fascinating thing where because kink is stigmatized, people try to come up with a reason that what they're doing is not kink, which then prevents them from
Mm,
accessing resources about like safety and
sure,
negotiation and
sure.
doing this in a way that is healthier. Because if they acknowledge it as kink, then they would have to acknowledge they are doing something that is outside the norm. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
true to some extent for non-monogamy as well, and why a lot of people enter non-monogamy through hierarchical poly, a lot of them enter it through swinging, a lot of them enter it through these highly heteronormative models that are as close to mononormativity as possible, because the more you start unpacking and changing, the more you have to acknowledge that the foundations you've built so much of your understanding of relationship on are faulty, and that the foundation you may have built a current relationship on could also be really faulty and need to be
Mm-hmm.
undone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The one penis policy, like you were
Oh God,
saying,
one
right?
penis
We
policy.
Ah!
Ugh. Okay, I it's just
Yeah.
fascinating to me because of patriarchy, of course, there's so much focus on penis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But like
yeah.
the way that that carries over even into queer communities. Like I've
Mm.
known folks in lesbian community who won't sleep with people who have sex with people with penises because that's
Mm.
dirtier and more likely to get STIs. And they won't say
Mm.
dirtier necessarily, but they'll say like, "Oh, the STI risk." And I'm like, "But really though? Like how many of y'all are using dams? Like let's be real,
Yeah, that's a
okay?
good point.
Vulva on vulva sex is much less risky than stuff that involves an ejaculating penis, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not zero risk, and most of those
Right.
folks don't take a lot of precautions regarding risk.
Mm-hmm.
They get tested, but they generally don't use barrier protections. So, like, what are we doing here? How are we understanding what risk is?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think people get into the nuance of those things. They work with the bias and just run. And so I appreciate that conversation. And I feel like a really big piece of this is, yeah, we can read Jessica Fern, we can read The Ethical Slut, we can read all these books, but our culture has so much stigma around pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's something with like polysecure, we get into so much of the attachment, sure. But what about actually enjoying pleasure with multiple people and the immense shame that comes with that? Guilt,
Mm-hmm.
jealousy, sure, when your partner's doing it with somebody else and all of that. But even as the person doing it, there is a
Yeah.
whole psychological tunnel of complexity to go through for that, especially depending on where you start that journey. Listening to your story, I was so jealous because when I was in high school, I was wearing my purity ring and
Oh.
abstinence only education. So I crawled out of that hole real deep. Yeah.
Woo!
And so I heard
Yeah.
you say that. I'm like, damn, I'm very jealous. That's a fun starting spot. But hey, well, I'm here now.
So, ironically, my
Mm.
dating quad came out of a Mormon dance. Um,
Oh,
so I had met,
yeah.
so there were two nightclubs in Denver you could go to if you
Wow.
were under 21 years old,
Yeah.
or under 18, and one of them was the gay club, and so I'd met a bunch of gay dudes at the gay
Okay.
club, and one of them had been raised Mormon, so I went to a Mormon dance with him. And while I was at the Mormon dance, I met this really hot girl,
Yeah.
and we saw each other in the bathroom, and she was rolling on ecstasy at the Mormon dance, and we made out in the bathroom of the Mormon dance. And then that
Wow.
kind of helped kick off the dating quad.
Amazing. Yes. My mother is Mormon, so yeah,
Oh God,
yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is. And so
Hmm.
I'm curious for you when you look back on the journey, is there any big turning points that you remember and key pieces of insight that you could share with a listener who's still walking through? And we're all still walking through that. I want to be very clear. I'm definitely not done with that journey
Oh God,
either.
yeah,
I just go
absolutely.
deeper. But yeah, like key insights that you look back and you're like, I wish I knew this when I started.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big one is that if you're trying to live your life to like meet someone else's standards or make someone else happy, you're always going to feel like you're getting hollowed out. So many of us are, especially those of us who are socialized as girls, are taught not to be selfish, like to put other people's wants and needs and interests first and to make sure that we're making them happy. And when you do that, you're supposed to like somehow magically get it back from other people without
Mm.
even asking for it. They're just supposed to know that you need caretaking as well and exactly what kind you
Yeah.
need. And like, I think that sets a lot of us up for trying to live the life that will make someone else happy and make the decisions that will make someone else happy. And then we wonder like why we're not feeling that fulfillment we were told we would feel when we did the things, when we checked the boxes. You know, you met the person, they're attractive, they're
Mm.
good at this hobby you share, you got married, you did the things. Why aren't you happy? And it's because when we're trying to find a happiness that isn't ours, it's never going to work. Like it's never going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just put on somebody else's idea of what happiness is and expect it to fit our hearts and our lives. And I think that with my marriage, that was one of the really big things I realized was that, I had been trying to hit these check boxes that I was told were the right ones. And I was
Mm.
trying to like show my parents that I was mature and an adult and I could do these things. And then I
Mm.
was trying to make him happy because obviously he, when we met through blues and swing dancing, and he's a very
Mm.
big deal in those
Yeah.
communities. And I was new to those communities.
Sure.
Yet another power dynamic that's so great that started our
I
relationship.
know. Yeah.
Um, but I thought of myself as not worthy of him because he's this big deal. He's so established. He's older. He's so attractive. What does he even see in me? And so I was trying to keep
Mm.
him
Oh.
happy to continue earning access to that like love and affection that I wasn't really even getting. Um, and becoming someone that I didn't want to be because I hoped that if I could be it hard enough, then like the love would happen and the happiness would happen. Like I just had to be good enough at being this person I've been told I need to be at doing these things that will make these other people happy, and then I'll be happy. And you can't do that. You have to be taking care of you. Don't go like so far into the zone of like not giving a crap about anybody else,
Right.
but almost everyone I've ever worked with in my therapy practice, the majority of people I know in my social circles, I'd say like 70 plus percent of us could stand to be significantly more selfish in the way that we
Mm.
approach so much of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go out just because your friends really want you to. If you need a night in, stay in.
Yeah.
Don't be the one who does all the chores because your partner is feeling really tired. Like if you want to, you can, but is that going to work for you? Like you need to be filling yourself up first and making sure that you're attuning to yourself
Mm-hmm.
because if you always give and give and give, you're going to have nothing left. I think another big aha moment for me was, I got out of my marriage, I dated around a bunch, slutted around a bunch, and then I was dating someone who wanted to be monogamous. And I was like, I can do this. I'm sure I can do this. I can do this, right? And then about a month in, I was like, actually, I don't want to do this. I don't. I don't want to do this. And had the conversation with them of like, look, this is not actually going to be a good fit for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
you're great. If
Mm.
you want to be non-monogamous, we can do that. But
Mm.
like, I don't want to agree to monogamy right now. I can't say 100% forever, I never will, but like, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And that relationship ended. And I got into another relationship. I'd been dating two people. They both asked me to be monogamous. I chose one of them. When I got out of that, the other one was like, hey, do you want to date? And I was like, yes, I just won't do monogamy though.
Yeah.
So is that going to work?
Yeah.
And he agreed, but it didn't, he wasn't in a space where he was really ready for that to be real.
Mm.
And,
Yeah. Feel
I think
that.
that I tried really hard to like make it an easy introduction for him and like do
Yes.
things slowly and like did a threesome with his friend so that he could like see things were fine.
Sure.
And it still just wasn't enough. And like
Yeah.
now he's happily non-monogamous and that's great. But
Yeah.
like he wasn't there yet where I needed
Yes.
him to be. And I
Yes.
think being okay with saying like, look, I hear that you need these things to feel comfortable. I can't offer those to you. So what are we going to do? Like, what do you want to do about that? Here are
Yeah.
the things I'm willing to offer. Here are the things I'm not.
Yep. 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 which ties back to your first thing about extending yourself towards people. I too have been in a relationship like that, or at least I'm projecting some similarity in your story of someone who says they want to do this, but when you get into the more practical live realities of it, struggles a lot. And of
Yeah.
course, being there to support someone, right? And also there's a certain point where I feel like I extended myself beyond, and then also holding so much of their internal experience that it made it difficult for me to connect with any of my other established relationships without feeling so
Yeah.
much pain or guilt or shame because of the place that that person was in, and wanting to support them, but then also, damn, this is impacting my whole ecosystem.
Yeah. For me, I think a lot of it in that relationship in particular was almost feeling guilty because I didn't feel guilty saying no to the
Mm,
request for me to cancel stuff. Like he would
mm,
get really upset and be crying and be like, "Can you please just not go on this date?" And I would say, "I am happy to support you in whatever way I can, short of canceling this date. Like I'm not going to cancel the date. I'm going to go on it. So like what else can we do?"
mm.
And I didn't feel bad about not saying yes to that at all.
Sure, sure.
And I felt bad I didn't feel bad.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a thing that I think also is a struggle of like I think it's hard for a lot of us to figure out, is this something where I am overstepping and I'm like not being kind to my partner and I am being calloused in a way that people have been to me in the past? Or is this just that I get to say no and that may be really upsetting? It may mean that our relationship has to change or end, but like I get to say no and that's
Mm-hmm.
what
Absolutely.
it is.
Yeah. And then that provides the space for that person to meet you on their own terms, right? You're very clearly
Yeah.
laying it out of, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to practice. I'm happy to help you, but this is where I draw my line. And now you can choose to meet me here or not, right? That's their freedom and their choice. So, how did you sit with that guilt then? And how did you come to some peace with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so for me that relationship ended up ending because he started lying to me about being okay about things.
Oh, no, no,
So we
no, no.
we started dating right before I went into the army, and so we were going to be
Okay.
long distance.
Yeah.
And he had come out with me for like the first week of my officer's basic training, and then went back to California where he was living. And I was hooking up, or I wanted to hook up with some people at basic,
Yeah.
and we had an agreement at that point to like ask for permission, which I would never
Oof.
do
Yeah,
now.
my
But
body's
like
like, no.
early mistakes,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
youthful
Yes,
mistakes.
yes.
And so I had texted him and be like, "Hey, I met this guy. We made out. It was super hot. I want to hook up with him. Is that cool?" And he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, I'm not ready." And I was like, what?" And we talked on video chat like every day for like 3, 4 days. And on
Oh.
the fourth day, I just kind of snapped and I was like, "I don't understand what is happening here. It has been clear from the start that I do not want to do monogamy. I did these things to help try to get you ready for it. We are still having conversations every night where you are bawling your eyes out because this is a thing I actually want to do. What are we doing? Like, what is happening
Mm,
here?" And rather
mm,
than him being honest about, like, "I'm not ready for this,"
mm.
he started saying he was fine, things were cool, he was fine. And then I found out from a friend that he was not
Oh
indeed fine.
no.
And so I broke things off because then it's these multiple layers of like, you actually don't want the relationship I can offer you right now, and you've been lying to me about it. And I get that those lies came from this good place in theory of like
Yes.
not wanting to upset me and not wanting to acknowledge your own challenges here, but also like
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust your yes. I can't trust your
Yes.
yes because I know that your yes isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
And that, actually that's a big lesson is like only be with people where you can trust their yes and their no. If they can't tell you no when it's hard, or they can't be honest about their yeses to other people or in other situations, like do not go there. Do not go there. They need to fix that themselves before they can have a good relationship with anybody else.
Mm.
And like that doesn't mean that they don't deserve like kindness or friendship or even
Yeah,
relationships while
of
they are working
course.
through that issue. But if someone can't be honest about what they are doing, what they want, what they don't want, you can't have a real relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. Hugely important in sex, of course, for safety and all areas of relating to someone. Yes, absolutely. Lessons that you learn down the line, certainly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about so many lessons that you learn as you go deeper into it, of course, but there's a big difference between choosing to align with your values and work through the discomfort of jealousy and fear and say, I am okay with this. I am working through lots of complexity. I am noticing these responses. God, as someone who came from purity culture, right? Like a lot of work. So like, I am noticing this response. I am doing the somatic work and I'm aligning with my values. Okay. So I am fine, you know? So that's
Yeah.
very different than
Some
withholding.
diffusion and some.
Yeah. There's been a lot of exposure therapy. Yes. And so
Yep.
that is very different than completely withholding and not telling you anything and just giving you this mask that it's totally fine. And then especially to hear from another person that they're struggling so much and can't come to you. I think this is an important topic of what cheating means in terms of expansive relating, non-monogamy, polyamory, because, you know, culturally so many people look at it as having sex with someone, you know, emotionally cheating. Wow, whole thing, but we won't even go there.
Oh God,
I know, right?
so many issues
I can't
with the
even have
concept
that.
of emotional cheating.
As a queer person, you know, like what?
Right?
Yeah,
As a
what?
bisexual person, I'm like, is every friendship emotional cheating? I don't
Yes, it
understand.
is, and I'm
I
cheating all over the
just
place if
don't.
that's the case, right? Like, just, yeah, that's the first path onto non-monogamy. You're like, wow, oh no, and yeah, and so I think cheating in expansive relating, I understand
Yeah.
that to be more, yes, withholding key information that is needed for consent, like that example, or actively withholding, yeah, information that's essential for the knowledge. I'm curious, how do you define cheating in more expansive relating?
Yeah. I mean, I think cheating for me, it depends on how fine a like definition you want to get.
Sure, yeah.
I think for me, I have a narrow definition of cheating, but a more expansive definition of like betrayal. Like
Sure, yeah.
verse, because I think cheating for me is like you had an agreement that you broke,
Sure, yes.
particularly as relates to relationships with people other than the person who is feeling cheated on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like if you agree to let people know when you sleep with someone new and you didn't tell them you slept with someone new, that is cheating. Um, so breaking the agreement is like at the heart of it. Betrayal for me, I think he gets into those like lies of omission and also like lying about whether you're okay with something or like pretending things are fine or not giving information. Because sometimes people can not give information and it's not what I would necessarily consider cheating. Like I just recently got out of a relationship where the person I was dating has a, I'm now finding out, historical pattern of sometimes just not telling their existing people that they started to see someone new even when that relationship is getting very deep very quickly, and that person knows about all the other folks. And so you'll end up at a party. One of the other people who was seeing this guy ended up playing at a party with someone, and during pillow talk, she was like, wait, your name sounds familiar. Are you dating this guy? And that's how she found out that they were in an apparently deep relationship. And like, is that cheating? I don't know because like they didn't have an agreement that he had to tell her about like people he saw or by a certain deadline. But also it's definitely betrayal. Like there's definitely
Yeah.
betrayal there. Um or like he would like at least with me about that same relationship would give me information, but it was always incomplete information that
uh,
like downplayed what was happening or tried to
yeah.
like maybe preemptively soothe what he thought I wanted. I don't know. I think that there's probably an element of like people pleasing that was underlying this,
Yes.
but the way that I like would find out information in other places and then be like, wait, that's not what you told me. What you told me was this.
Oh,
And then he would get upset that I was upset, which that for me was that was the end. I was like,
oh
no,
gosh.
that's
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
not playing this
yeah.
game. Like yeah, so I think that like
uh,
betrayal for me is when you feel like you were not given the information you needed in order to be able to give like ongoing informed consent and assent to what is happening, where cheating is like a breach of agreement. And like often
mm-hmm.
there's overlap, but sometimes there are things that are not quite a breach of an agreement, but like are definitely betrayal.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that nuance. Again, the listener could not see my face, but I was just dropped during that. I was like, oh, no, no. I would be so upset. Oh
Oh
my
yeah, when
goodness.
she told me that story after she found out that I had broken up with him, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? That is horrendous. I cannot believe that that's how you found out
Yeah.
he was seeing this person. Like that
Oh my
is
gosh.
shocking."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. And so, even the breath there for me, it like completely holds. And I'm already just thinking about experiences I've had in my relationships where people have withheld information like that. And it betrays your trust so hard. And you feel it in your
So
body the
hard.
same way that my breath was just held there. You then go through that. If you keep choosing to be with that person, you hold that in your body. Or when you meet someone new and you remember that past experience, you hold it in your body. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And so, yeah, I appreciate that distinction between cheating and betrayal. And I think it's such an important conversation for relationship anarchists because there's always this wanting to dismantle assumptions, right? And make sure that
Yeah.
everything's very clear and we've stated. And oh man, I'll remember this Valentine's Day with one of my partners. We were in a lot of reorienting with different relationships. And so there was tension between so much going on, and he was like, I really want to get into like what we're committed to and make sure we don't have any assumptions, be extremely explicit. And in my
There's
stress,
no way to never have assumptions. I'm sorry, I
yes,
shouldn't have
no,
interrupted, but
no,
like that's
yo,
impossible.
that's exactly where I'm getting to, because in my stressed out state I was like, Cooper, this is impossible. We cannot name every single thing. Because him and I, we like deep theoretical people, love him dearly, you know, so many years into this, but we're so theoretical that we could spend hours talking about this, which is like hot and erotic. But when you're in the complexity of it all, you're like, how explicit do I need to be? I didn't specifically say that you should tell me happy birthday. However, if you don't, I think I will feel betrayed. Like, as a very basic
Yeah.
example, like, there's so much of the human experience that is inevitably on assumptions. And so I see the beauty of the relationship anarchist. And he was definitely playing with me at the time because he was like, you wrote your dissertation on this and now you're just throwing it away. And I was like, yeah, fuck the smorgasbord. Fuck all that shit. It's too much. You know, you're just way, way beyond my,
Yeah.
my regulation, you know?
Well, and I think that like that example. So when I first learned of relationship anarchy back in the old days, so God, when did I first come across relationship anarchists? That would have been
mm,
like 2014,
yeah,
2013
cool.
maybe, long time ago. So the reason I ended up not identifying with relationship anarchy and identifying instead as solo poly
Mm-hmm.
was because most of the relationship anarchists I ran into were relationship libertarians.
Yes.
It was very much a like, your feelings are not my responsibility. And
Yeah.
like, theoretically, yes, that is true. But also, part of a relationship is that we should be considering how the things we are doing are going to impact the people we say we care about. If I don't care how my actions impact the people I care about, do I care about them? Like, is that actually what is happening here? You know, I think to All About Love by Bell Hooks,
Yeah.
and the way that she defines love is as an action that is about expanding yourself in order to, you know, forward the spiritual growth of yourself or another person,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it is active, it is about this active pre-consideration. Abuse and love cannot coexist, right? If you are purposely doing something to harm someone, you are not at that moment loving them because you cannot be loving them while you are harming them. And I think there is this way that the kindest interpretation I can give is when we have been called out for something and are feeling defensive, it is easy to go to, well, you didn't tell me that I needed to
Mm,
X, as a way to say, like, I didn't think of it and you should have made sure I was thinking of it. And there are times where that can be kind of true. Like things can go really far to one side of like people being like, well, you should have known that you can't take this person to this restaurant you took me to for at least 6 months because otherwise it's like our date doesn't count. And I'm like, that's probably too far. Like that's a lot. I'm
yeah.
not gonna put like a 6 month kibosh on a restaurant.
Right.
But things like wishing me happy birthday seems pretty like
Right.
understandable
Right.
to expect, right? Or like, I think that in non-monogamy land, if you're dating someone new, you should probably tell the people you've been dating that you're dating them as soon as possible. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't. It's very
Mm-hmm.
strange to not do
Yeah.
that.
Let's
Um,
celebrate.
yeah, right?
How
And
exciting.
if you feel like you can't tell them that information, why are you in relationship with them? Right? Like, what is happening here? Like, where is this space people get to of like, I'm protecting them from this information because it would be upsetting to them or it might disrupt our relationship. But also, I want to be able to do this thing. So I'm telling myself that they never said I had to tell them.
Mm,
So it's fine if I don't. Because, like, I
yeah.
don't have to. They
Right.
haven't explicitly told me this is a thing I have to do. And I think there's this like American independence thread underneath it of
Mm,
like, no one
yeah.
gets to tell me what to do. I
Yeah.
am not a part of a society. Like, we're
Yeah.
all interdependent. We all have to connect with each other. Like, none of us is living in this world independently.
Right.
And if you're not thinking about how the things you're doing are impacting other people, you probably need to figure out why that is. Like, why are you so
Mm-hmm.
stuck within yourself that you're not understanding how you interact within this society, within this
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
within your relationship bonds?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so that's where the example you said earlier of, hey, I'm willing to meet you and support you, but this is my boundary. I'm not willing to not go on this date. That's the kinder thing to do because you're being very direct with what's on the
Yes.
table and allowing that other person to choose and freely consent to the dynamic rather than the cognitive dissonance of holding all of that swirl of not telling the person because I think this or that. Like, that place is also not very fun. I feel like that's a
No.
really challenging place to go and explore any sort of pleasure because you're constantly holding that you're doing something you're not telling or doing something you fear might hurt the other person. All that's also not a fun place to be for your pleasure.
It's a ton of precarity, right? Like, you're setting yourself up to be caught.
Yeah.
It's very rare that people don't get caught at any of these
Yeah.
things. Like, eventually it happens. It's a matter of when, not if, most of the time.
Yeah.
And so you're putting yourself in this position of having to like be alert to, am I going to get caught today? Is it now? Is it going to happen this way? How's it going to happen? Rather than just like being upfront. And yeah, stuff may end. If you tell someone honestly what you're going to do, and you tell them honestly you've started seeing a new person, that may mean your relationship changes or ends. That is very real. And I think that that fear may
Yeah.
be a piece of what drives a lot of this behavior.
Yes.
But I think we need to acknowledge that if that piece of information would end the relationship, your choice is not, do I tell them or not? Your choice is, am I willing to do this at that risk? Or is that risk not worth it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes.
that's your choice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we know how comfortable we can get in situations. And so the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing this relationship, all of that. And so people don't make a choice. But by continuing to not tell someone, you're making that choice and stepping into that
Yes.
inevitable, right? And I think it is important to name that there are people who actively get off on that dynamic, like
Oh, yeah,
very
totally.
actively love being bad, naughty, breaking the rules in that way, not in a kink play way, but in a very
Yeah.
harmful lack of consent
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. In a way that like it gives them a feeling of power over others, right? Like they have
Yeah,
all of this power because they're hurting people and they don't even know it,
I
right? There's
know.
this, and I think that that is rare. I don't think that that is common,
Yeah.
but I do think that there are some people for whom that is a portion of the dynamic. I think the
Mm-hmm.
majority of people don't say things they need to be saying less out of like narcissistic self-interest
Right.
and more from a space of like fear of rejection, fear of
Yeah.
loss,
Yeah.
internalized guilt and shame. I think that that is a lot of what drives it. That doesn't make it okay, but I think people often are not doing things for like nefarious purposes. Most people aren't sitting around thinking about the
Right.
ways that they can hurt other people, but that doesn't mean we aren't still hurting people. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important. So the person that I was dating that I broke up with, when
Yeah.
I first like confronted him about stuff that I had found out that he had not been telling me, the first conversation we had about it was very good and he took accountability and was responsible. But then the follow-up conversation we had, he was like, I just kind of felt like you were making me responsible for your feelings. And I'm like, so I wasn't making you responsible for my feelings. And also, like internally I was like, how do I phrase it that like sometimes when you do things that hurt other people, they're going to be hurt, and that's not them making you responsible for your feelings. That is them letting you know that you were hurtful. Like sometimes you were wrong. Sometimes you messed up. We all mess up. We all end up hurting other people. That happens.
Yep.
It is more helpful for us to get used to taking accountability for that and being like, I hurt you. I didn't do it intentionally. That was not what I was going for. I recognize that I did it anyway. I want to talk with you about like what happened and your experience of it and like how we can do things differently in the future to try to make that less likely. I think we need to get better at being wrong and like acknowledging we were wrong. Because I think, again, that same defensiveness leads to this stance of like, well, but like, why were you so upset? It's hard when you're crying for me to like have a conversation. And I'm like, people get to cry. Like that's a thing people get to do.
Yes. The lack of accountability in that second conversation just kills me. I'm like, whoa, okay. So much work, and I admire you for taking a step back. I feel like coming from my background of purity culture, there is a long history of the one, and so I stayed in relationships way too long because once I had sex with one person, there was a second, I was like, well, then damn, I messed the one. I gotta stick on the two, you know, like I can't do any more than two, right? And so I think that there's a lot of unlearning from my journey of that to see a situation like that and be like, wow, we are in two different places. I wish you the best on your journey and I'm gonna go in this direction because to extend myself would be way too much emotional labor and it's not really an equal match in that way. And that's its own power dynamic and one often of emotional labor. And like, we don't need that, right?
Yeah. And I think like a vulnerable share I'll make here is that I am someone who I worry sometimes I am too quick to be like, nope, this isn't going to work and cut things. I don't think it's probably true. Like I've talked with my therapist about this so many times, but also it is a concern that I have that like, have I gone too far to this other side? You know, in my marriage, I tried really hard to make it work at the cost to myself. But now am I calling things too quickly? Am I giving people too few chances? Or am I just, you know, that Maya Angelou quote, right? Of like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yep.
And like, am I doing that or am I cutting people off? And I think it's hard to know. I think part of the beauty of the journey for me has been trying to get better at not knowing those things and letting that be a continuing question of like, that I continually check in with myself about, okay, I'm feeling the urge to cut this. Is this me wanting to run? Is this something where I've already put in more effort than is fair? Is this something where I don't see that it can change in a way that would be helpful? Like, where am I cutting this from? And is that something that's in alignment with my values and how I want to be?
And that's really all the best we can do at the end of the day, right? Because I too have had that question in therapy and my couples therapy sessions because the pendulum swing, right? You get hurt once and you're like, never again. I'm out this time. This time I'm out. I'm running so fast, you know? And it's like, okay, so that pendulum swings and comes back. And then that's right where you sit of like, there's this deeper contemplation, right? Of trying to assess values, patterns, and just figuring it out. And this time, hoping that we're a little bit wiser, you know, and we'll see the signs a little bit faster. And I think for me, I found like you said at the beginning of this conversation, that the more skills you got in your self-worth and communication and relational, all of that, the more conflict happened in that original relationship because you were changing and growing, and therefore what you're attracted to changes and grows. And so my attraction has been shifting, and I'm learning to trust that more and more because I see some of those signs early on, and my body shuts down and is not having a response in ways that, quite frankly, in the past it did to some of the most chaotic, toxic things because I was addicted to the dopamine drug of that sort of chaotic roller coaster, right? And so all of that embodiment work, like the embodiment work now to be attracted to more stability so that when someone takes accountability like that, I'm like, oh my God, my pussy is so wet. Like, please tell me again. And also, the more that I fuck myself better, the more confidence I have to walk away when those relationships aren't good because I know how to please myself. Like, I know how to give myself good pleasure. Like,
And also there's a line of folks. Like, if all I want is a fuck, I can call a number of people and I'll be set. Like, it's good. I think too, for me, a piece of it has been recognizing that I am very drawn at times to that like roller coaster relationship.
Uh,
That like,
yeah,
I'm an ADHD or adrenaline junkie. Of course, there's
sure.
a piece of me that wants that like big, hot, burning, passionate thing.
Yes.
But at this point, I'm able to like notice it within a couple weeks instead of it taking months or years. I'm able to
Yeah.
be like, oh, Liz, you're back on your bullshit. Let's
Yeah.
let's figure that out. Is this salvageable or not?
Hmm. And that's such an important thing to talk about with non-monogamy because you could roller coaster chase novelty for the rest of your life. And the deeper I get into that, I'm like, why not? As long as as long as you're doing it with loving, kind intention for your existing relationships, the novelty of going to a play party and having a new partner to play with each night, like, great, go for
Yeah.
it. If that feels good, right? As long as you're caring to the relational pieces of all the people in that ecosystem as you do it, right? But
Yes.
it's important to acknowledge because of our society and our context with romance and the romance myth and the assumption that heightened state of quite literally chaos and
Yeah.
uncontrollable animalistic desire that society really puts on a pedestal. So when you
Well,
get into,
insecurity. Like
yeah,
the model of like, oh, I'm so excited, love is built on this like fear and insecurity that is not sustainable or healthy.
yes, absolutely. And so you can chase that in so many different relationships. And I think that's something that I walked into at the beginning of my expansive relating journey is finding this novel experience with someone and being such a somatic therapist, so deep in the body, and being like, well, look, I'm really excited over here with this new person. My pussy is so wet. And I've had way more habituation to my established partners. And I said, well, I gotta listen to the body. Look, the body's really happy over here. Not really understanding the monkey brain and novelty and stimulus and the dopamine pathway. Like, oh, that was a lesson to learn.
Yep. And
Yeah.
figuring out for you where that balance is, right? I think
Yes.
when I was first moving like fully into the non-monogamy world, there was a lot of talk of like polyamory is not just about sex. And I'm like, but it's also about sex.
Yes, it is
And
about
like,
sex.
can we acknowledge that? Like there are definitely ace
Yes.
people who do polyamory. That is
Yes.
super valid, right? Ace people are
Absolutely.
queer, ace people can
Yes.
be polyamorous. Not
Yes.
everybody has polyamory sex, but like most of us are in it also for fucking, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also okay to want to have casual sex in polyamory. Like this the whole sacred circle of sex being within like a committed, loving relationship
Mm,
doesn't
mm.
die out completely for us when we move into polyamory, even though it
Yeah.
should. You can
Hmm.
have great, healthy, fulfilling sex with someone you never talk to again. You can have great, healthy, fulfilling sex with someone you don't speak the same language as. Like, we need to get out of this idea that like the only good, best sex is with the person you're in a relationship with and you love them and blah, blah, blah. It's only valid if you're doing a lot of love relationships. If you're just fucking around, that's not real polyamory. Are you doing ethical non-monogamy in a way that to you is about open to multiple loving relationships? You're doing polyamory. I don't care if most of what you're doing is fucking. That's also polyamory and that's okay.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's the years of societal conditioning that we talked about early in the conversation that are so deep within our unconscious about what's good, bad, or otherwise. And it is deep. And the reality is, these are some of the most crucial aspects of our lives, right? People orient their whole life to romantic partners and sexual partners. And when they have been told a certain narrative that it's supposed to look like this, specifically within our culture, monogamous, heterosexual, committed relationship, you've oriented your whole life around that, which can be beautiful. However, you can also look at other people who have different lives and feel, I think, an unconscious level of they're doing that, but I'm over here. I think that's usually where the anger comes from, is a bit of like,
Hmm.
the people who are happy in monogamous relationships don't give a fuck what other people are doing. It's the people that are really in it that I think are kind of angry about it and they see someone else with their freedom, queerness, we see this a lot
Oh
too.
yeah.
And they go, no, you can't do that. And you're like, why do you care what I do?
Yeah. And I think too that another aspect of this is like for most adults in our culture, the primary zone where they get play is sex.
Yeah, yes,
And as
yes,
humans, we need
yes.
play. Like
Oh
we
my God.
need play. It is required for our brains and our bodies to have play. And most of us as grown-ups don't let ourselves do that outside of like maybe video games, maybe board games, and sex. And that means that this becomes like a fulfiller of multiple overlapping human needs of like connection and pleasure and touch and play and all of these things. And that's a huge burden to
Yes, it
put on it.
is. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I'm exhausted just hearing that. I'm like, wow, that weight of that is huge, right? And I feel like play, ideally, we get play and sex. I feel so many people are stuck on the script, the intimacy
Oh
escalator
God,
of
yeah.
sex looks like this, foreplay, which is a word I'll want to kill.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? Whoa. So like, yeah, ideally we're having play there, but you know how many people, myself in the past included, who were
Oh sure.
performing scripts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, myself as well, right? And I think especially once I was married, it was
Mm,
all scripts, And I think
mm-hmm.
kink is beautiful because it's hard to do not play kink.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about a lot of the non-monogamy community for me has been how playful most of the people that I know through it are when it comes to things like sex
Yep,
and the ways that they relate with each other's bodies,
yep.
whether it's more platonic touch or more sensual or sexual touch. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the when I hear of like research or comments from folks who are still deeply in the mainstream of like, oh, you were laughing during sex. And I'm like, why would you not laugh during sex? Bodies are
Mm,
ridiculous. The sounds they
yeah.
make, like, come on now,
Yeah,
right? Like, of
yeah,
course you're gonna laugh during sex. Why wouldn't you?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Or like, you do goofy stuff sometimes. That's fine. That's great. Let's do it. Right? Like, why is there this idea that you need to be this like perfect, polished, exact kind of person?
Yeah.
And the research looks a lot, especially in like women at self-monitoring during sex and the ways that
Oh,
they are like
sure.
zoomed out trying to imagine how they look, and that pulls them out of their pleasure, right? And pulls them out of their own
Yes.
sensation.
Yes.
And I think for men, that's probably also rising with a lot of the manosphere bullshit, about like how they're supposed to look and how they're supposed to perform. And so you get people who are interacting with each other in the way they think they're supposed to, whether that feels good for them or not. And like, what is the
Mm-hmm.
point? Why? Like,
Mm,
why? Why would you do
mm,
that?
Relationally, we want to be accepted.
But that's not acceptance, that's fitting in, which is
Yeah,
different,
I,
you
yeah, I
know?
agree. I agree. I think it's in the psyche is that on an unconscious level, you're like, well, if I do this kind of sex, then I'm normal and I'm emotionally, like, evolutionarily, I'm in the herd and I'm normal and this is great and safe. And I don't have to wake up the next day wondering if I'm too much, if I've done something
Mm,
too weird, all of the
mhm.
things, right, that are tied up with that. So if I do A, B, C, D, I'm accepted. And so it just breaks my heart. And I think, when you had said earlier that most of your community is non-monogamous, I think this is one of the biggest things is that we know from psychology that we internalize all of the relationships around us. Of course, the relationships to the bigger systems, all of that, but also the people in your circle, right? And so when you are looking to have more play in your life, to have other community members that also value play in their sex life, that are telling you about that
Yeah.
crazy farm scene they did with a corncob dildo, and you're like, yeah, someone was mooing and it was great, and you're like, wow, thanks,
Amazing.
yeah, thanks for expanding
Right.
my horizons of what was
Right.
possible, right? You find corncob dildos, Google search, you're like,
Oh,
wow,
there's so many
there's
vegetable dills and
everything.
butt
Yeah,
plugs. I'm just telling you.
you look for it, it's there, it exists, right? And
Yeah,
so
it all exists.
when you're around that, that starts to spark more conversation. I know the listeners who are tuning in, right, coming into conversations like this where we talk about that, oh, the dog.
Hi, Jojo. Come on up.
Oh, the
Hi.
doggo. Hello.
Yeah.
Ah,
Sometimes she likes to come sit with me in my chair.
yeah, so sweet, so sweet. Pets are a great reminder of play. My fat cat, she's play and meat. She wants play and meat, just wet foods.
Well, and I think too, finding people who are playful just more in general in their day to
Yes.
day. One of the things that I hate about our current cultural moment is like the demonization of cringe, or like the idea of cringe. And I'm like, I'm cringe as fuck. You need to kill the part of you that cringes. Because, like,
Mm,
why are we trying to be cool? Why are we trying to be like cynical and detached? That is such a sad way to live. Like, that is such a like non-binary clothes are gray kind of way to live, you know? Be
Mm-hmm.
weird, be goofy, be cringy, be dorky. Don't be everybody's flavor. There is no such
Yeah.
thing as everybody's flavor. Like, be you and you'll find your weirdos.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that takes some deep trust because sometimes I see people on the internet and they're a vibe and I'm like, wow, this is not my vibe, but that's a vibe. And they have lots of people. Wow, okay. I mean, maybe I should be more of my own vibe. It's
Yeah,
hard to trust into that because of years of bullying or whatever experiences we've had earlier in life that have made that really scary, right? Ugh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, just find the play you can do. And I think
Yeah.
play is a really good opening point for expanding yourself sexually and in kink because you have to be willing to be weird and uncomfortable and wrong and deal with all those emotions if you're going to expand yourself in those realms. And play is a great way to get better at that. I think
Yeah.
we live in an unfortunate time where like everybody's like, "Oh, you do that as a hobby? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to monetize everything you do for fun? Is
Yeah.
everything you do for enjoyment about monetization or efficiency or
Yes.
productivity?" And
Yes.
like, no, throw that off. Throw those chains off.
Yes.
Have fun, just play, get used to being bad at things. Make bad
Mm-hmm.
art because you want
Mm-hmm.
to. Like, it doesn't have to be
Right.
good. Let go of being good at things, and that's how you'll be able to find things that you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And take small steps with it, right? It's important to understand that the neuronal pathways that we don't use, right? It's like a muscle. You have to keep flexing it to go deeper into that. So if play is new and novel and you haven't really done that, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's gonna feel like lifting a super heavy weight with no muscles yet, but you keep building it through small steps, small steps, small steps. And there's a real reason why a good chunk of my community is theater people, which I've never
Oh, yeah.
done. However, I started connecting with one and then flew into that community, and they are all play. They're always joking, and at first I'd always be like, they just make jokes so fast. I don't know how to chime in. My social anxiety would be flying. I'd just be like watching all of them, but I can happily report I now jump in with jokes.
Yep.
It's been a growth edge.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a theater background,
Yeah. Okay. See,
and
there it
like,
is.
you do enough like improvisational theater
Yeah.
stuff, and like, you're a lot of fun at parties
Yeah.
because you train your brain to work differently, right? Like, you train your brain
Mhm.
to see these patterns, to like put things together, to be able to link things, to like phrase things in a way that hits. And I
Mhm.
think again, you have to be willing to be bad at it to get good at it. And I think that that's where
Yeah.
I see a lot of people get blocked is they don't want to be bad at something. They don't want to feel
Mhm.
like they're failing. They don't want to feel like it's not coming naturally to them. And like it didn't come
Mhm.
naturally to those folks too. They just were probably bad at it in their teens when they were bad at everything. So it didn't feel as challenging as it does to you now.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So small steps, small
Yeah.
steps. And I'm curious too, if you were to look back to your younger self, is there any piece of wisdom or advice that you would impart, especially about your sex life, that you would share with your younger self?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing would be that it's okay to want all the things you want and to do those things. Like, you don't need to limit yourself. You don't need to feel guilt and shame that you're not following this script you were handed. You can make out with a dozen people at the rave because you're on ecstasy. And that is great. That's not even just okay. Like, that's a beautiful way to experience this world, right? Like, how many people get to share that much with that many people? Like, those are beautiful moments of expansion and exploration and joy that I got to
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah.
because I was doing things I was not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. We
Yeah.
all get to have lives that are imperfect, where we're not always doing the thing we're supposed to do. We're not always at our best. We're not always following the exact right set of decisions. Sometimes that's where we find the most beautiful things. That sometimes that's where
Mm-hmm.
we find the lessons we need to become who we are and who we
Yeah.
really want to be. Let
Mm-hmm.
yourself just be weird and messy and do the
Mm-hmm.
stuff and just let it all be. Like, it doesn't need to be
Mm-hmm.
something that is good or bad. You're always making the right choices. Make bad choices. Mess up.
Yeah.
That's where the beauty
Yeah.
is.
Right, right, absolutely. That's what it means to be human.
Yeah.
A lesson I'm always telling myself in the mess and the chaos. I'm like, where am I and why? You know, you're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
human. I'm a human, right?
Same. I mean,
Got it.
I think a lot of folks think that those of us who are like therapists and sex
Mm-hmm.
educators and have been
Ha
doing it a while, that we
ha
like have it
ha.
figured out and we're good. And like it's just stuff's never a problem for
Oh,
us. And like
wow.
part of why in my book I wanted to make sure I included a lot of stuff I messed up was to try to start
Yeah.
unpacking that for people that even those of us who have been doing this a while, even those of us who think about it and talk about it all the time, even those of us who help other people with these things, we still suck at it sometimes. We still mess up. We still struggle. We still have our own internalized stuff that we're continually going through cycles of unpacking and exploring because it's
Mm-hmm.
not ever a one and done. You're not ever like, oh, monogamy, unpacked, done, finish.
Exactly.
Like it's just going to be there for you forever because every movie you watch, every TV show, which like as an aside, I have so many thoughts about this like new trend of reality shows where people microdose non-monogamy to
Oh my
reinforce their
God.
monogamy.
Yes.
Like I love those
Yeah.
garbage shows so much, but
The
also like
cringe.
wow,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wow.
Wow. I know. I'm like, put me in as the therapist on there, please. Like, I
Right?
am so ready. Like,
Oh my
put me
God,
in. They
seriously.
wouldn't want that. We'd make it more calm,
No.
you know? Like, they want the
Yeah.
drama. No, I know, I know. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm ready. Oh, yeah. It's so true. So, so true. And I think it's important too in that journey. We're always looking forward. It's like, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. I want to keep going. And something I have to remind myself and many of my clients is also look backward and see how far you've
Yeah.
come. And so when I do look that far back, I realize, wow, damn, these days I've come harder than I've ever done in my entire life. And I am
Hmm.
so excited for the pleasure that is coming in the other direction. I know it's not all about orgasms, but those orgasms are going to be
Look,
wicked.
look. I had an amazing I have a semi-long distance
Yeah.
lover, sweetie.
Sure.
What are words?
Yeah,
What are
yeah,
words?
I hear you.
Um,
Yeah.
who I get to see like once a quarter.
Yeah.
And the last time he was out here, we had like a month's worth of sex in one
Ah,
night. And
ah,
like he fucked me up against my front door. He fucked me on
yes.
my dining table.
Yes.
Like it just everywhere. And so now
Uh,
there's all of these pieces of my life that are associated with all those hot fucking orgasms.
yes.
Ah, so
Ah,
good. It's so good.
magical, magical. Oh, I'm so, so grateful that you came onto the show and really opened up vulnerably to all of the nuance, the complexity of this, because something that I really love about the podcast space is to be able to hear our breath and the laughter and the voice when we share these things about how good this can feel and how complex and devastating it can feel at the same time. And so I think
Mhm.
it's so empowering when we get to have people like you who are very vulnerable about that journey and what it's like in all of its entirety, the pleasure and the pain, which are often so deeply connected, right? And so I'm so grateful that you came onto the show today to share all of this.
This was so much fun. I'm so
Ah,
glad that you reached out about this. This has been great.
so good. Well, I'll check in with you and take a deep breath together as we're coming toward the ends of our time. And then I'll see if there's anything else that you want to share with the listener. Otherwise, I have a closing question for you.
I think the one last thing I would share is that like what you think makes you weird is actually the thing that makes you like that's your superpower. That is like the best thing about you.
Mm,
And anyone who gives you shit about it is not your person, right?
yeah.
Be your weirdo self. We will all find each other, I promise. Like
Mm,
we are out there, we will find each other.
mm-hmm.
Don't cut yourself into the shape you think other people want. Just be you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's revolutionary. Personal is the political, so it's right there.
God, especially now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, the closing question that I have for you that I ask everybody on the show is what is one thing that you wish other people knew was more normal?
God,
I
there's so many
know.
things that are
I
so normal that
know.
people think are not.
I know.
Okay, so it is during sex, a lot of times you may need to take a break.
Oh,
Maybe you get a
yeah.
cramp, maybe you need
Yeah.
some water, maybe you
Yeah.
just need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be fine. I think there's a lot of like, it's going to break the moment. No, it's not. If the moment is any good, you'll fall right back in. I promise. If the moment is
Yeah.
that easily broken, it wasn't there anyway. Like, take the break. Just pay attention to your body. If you're
Yes.
someone like I'm a larger bodied person, I identify as fat,
Hmm.
smaller end of the scale, but on the fat scale. If you need to just move your fat, move your fat. If you need to just
Hmm.
like take a moment, take a moment. If you're getting a cramp, say you're getting a cramp. Like,
Yeah.
just take the pause, take the break, communicate the thing honestly. It will all be fine and it'll be so much better.
Right. The liberation of your voice, quite literally, about those things. Maybe you're like me recently and having a spiral shame of mononormativity as you're doing stuff and you got to pause, and all of that is so, so valid. And I feel like it often translates into the most pleasure because you're fully in the moment with all of the complexity there. You're not having to
Yeah.
wonder if I have to hide or hold this piece back. You can put it into the dynamic and therefore release it and come back to the body and back to your pleasure. I mean, there's so much weight lifted when you're able to
Yeah.
name that in relationship and not be attached to it and then just keep flowing. And you're right. The best relationships, the best connections will easily pick that up. They will laugh with you. They will cry with you. They will hold you, right? And those are the people that we want to be fucking.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They fuck better anyway. The
Yeah,
ones who
they
like don't want you to
do.
share your truth, they're usually not good at it. Like, you get much better
Exactly.
fucking from the people who are like, "Oh, you've got a cramp. Do you want to stretch it? Do you
Yeah,
need some
exactly.
water? I've got
Exactly.
electrolytes. What do you want?"
Yes, yes, because then we can go for a long time. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was such a joy to have you on the podcast today, Dr. Liz. Thank you so much for
Yes.
joining me. So much fun. And
Oh,
yeah, I'm sure everyone's like, where can I connect? Yeah.
yes. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much. My website is drlizpowell.com.
Yeah.
You've got links to all my stuff there. I'm on pretty much all the social medias as at Dr. Liz Powell. I don't do TikTok. I have the account. Maybe someday I will. I don't know. I just
I don't do it
it's
either. I
it's
can't.
not my life right now. Who
Yeah.
knows? But yeah, at Dr. Liz Powell, all the social medias, drlizpowell.com. If you want some cute merch, you can have a mug that says slut on it. It'll be great.
Amazing.
Have a great
Yeah.
time. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, I'll have all of that linked in the show notes below, dear listeners. So if you're looking for it, you can just go to the show notes. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for coming onto the show today. It was such a joy.
Thank you. This was great.
If you enjoyed today's episode, then leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And head on over to modernanarchypodcast.com to get resources and learn more about all the things we talked about on today's episode. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all next week.